I now call the Ripon City Council meeting for March 10th to session. Will you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will you all please stay standing for the invocation?
Let's pray. Lord, we take some time to confess that we don't have all the answers. And we're tempted to feel like our perspective is the right perspective, but in this moment we recognize that you have the right perspective. And we come to you, we petition your help as we look at different matters in this agenda. And we ask for your help to have wisdom, again, to have perspective, to be able to listen to one another, and to find the solutions that are for the greater good. We thank you that you're a God who hears us in this petition, who is in our presence, who guides us, and so may that happen in this time. And thank you for your gift of wisdom. Amen.
Amen.
Lisa, will you please do the roll call?
Councilmember Leo Zuber.
Here.
Mike Restuccia.
Present.
Dean Euchre.
Here.
Vice Mayor Daniel DeGraff.
Here.
Mayor Jake Parks.
Present. I will now open it up for public discussion. If you would like to comment on something not on the agenda, please step up to the podium and state your name and address. Seeing none, we will go ahead and close this portion of the public discussion. We will now open it up to the consent calendar.
Minutes.
Oh, the minutes, my apologies. Approval of the minutes.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
We will now move on to the consent calendar. Or approval of the agenda. So I'm looking at the wrong one here. Yep, so approval of the agenda. Does anybody on the council want to pull anything? Or are we good as is? I'm looking right at you.
I'm good.
Oh, really?
Scary, isn't it?
Yes.
Whoa, was it April Fool's?
Not quite.
And I was gonna pull all the rest, but I got out of that one. So you wanna move to accept it then?
I'll move to approve the agenda as
With no
Posted.
amendments.
Second.
As posted, yep. So we've got a mover and a second. Click the vote button. He's trying to throw me off now.
No kidding.
He did.
Everybody waits for Leo to make a comment before we go on.
We're so used to
Nobody
managing.
wants to approve anything.
We're so used to managing by exception that now we have to go the regular way. So, all right, we will now move on to the public hearings. Oh, we got to the. Seriously, you really did throw me off. Okay, well, now move on to the consent calendar.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
Okay, we've
Second.
got a mover and we've got a second.
That's
Been a long time. That is a first. I'm still in shock.
I know. Thinks it's my first year on the calendar. We haven't had to do anything like that.
Usually somebody pulls
So
something.
usually somebody does.
Well,
right?
I told Tricia, after 7.5 years, they finally got the thing right, and I didn't have to ask any questions.
Tricia, thank you.
Took you that long. Now she's gonna want a pay raise though.
All right, now we will go to the public hearings. So we'll move
Can I
on. to-
stop just for a moment?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, we've got Mike here with his dog. We're retiring Kilo. And he's in the back with his dog, and I just like to recognize him. He showed up for that. So Kilo's been a great dog and found a lot of kilos, I think, didn't he, at some point? So I just wanted to recognize him.
Don't bring him up here. He
Thank
might
you,
smell
thank you,
something.
Councilman.
Yeah, you're gonna, He's holding him tight, because if he gets in
Yeah.
there deemed, the chief's gonna have to
Yeah.
arrest him.
Yeah. Kilo gets to enjoy a good retirement now.
Yep,
Nice, easy time.
thanks, Mike.
All right. Public hearings, 2A. This is a public hearing to enter into a development with HPG Ripon Development for the Pereira Residential Subdivision.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members. This public hearing is going to cover a couple items here. With this public hearing, there'll be some approvals and an adoption of a resolution. And then there's two ordinances that follow this public hearing that are directly related to the project. So taking those after the public hearing. So what's in front of you tonight is for the Pereira Residential Subdivision. It's an annexation, a pre-zone, a development agreement, and tentative subdivision map. Go ahead, Dan. The application is to annex about 17.9 acres, more or less, to the city of Ripon, pre-zone the properties to R1U, which is single-family residential urban, and enter into a development agreement with the city in order to subdivide the 17 acres into 48 single-family residential parcels. The annexation includes two full parcels, which you're seeing on your screen there. You've got parcel 1, which is 12.43 acres, which is the parcel indicated in green on your screen. It is being fully annexed as part of the residential development project. The parcel is vacant and with a small existing vacant residential home that will be demolished as part of the project. Parcel 2 is a 3.05 acre parcel, which is shown in red, or reddish on the map there. The parcel contains a single-family home with a detached garage and a barn. The single-family home and detached garage will remain, and the existing home will be hooked up to city sewer and water as part of the development project, and the barn will be demolished as part of the project. Parcels 3 and 4 is the top right of the map, the blue and the red color up there. Those comprise about 2.3 acres of the annexation, and we're annexing a portion of those parcels, and those are for roadway extensions and right-of-way that will be dedicated to the city of Ripon. All the properties are within the sphere of city sphere of influence and are contiguous to the city limits on the eastern and western boundaries. So let's kind of zoom in on the map here for you guys. It's the red dot there, so you can see that the city limits is on 3 sides of this development, and it does present an orderly growth for the city. City services are available to the, oops, I get my map back in order here. City services are available to the east, west, and south of the proposed annexation to serve the property upon development. What you're looking at here is actually North Ripon Road, Bosch Drive, and John Roos Avenue. You can see the different colored lines on the map. Those indicate water lines and sewer and storm lines, which are actually in each of the roadways there. They will be extended throughout the project and as part of the project, and they are readily available adjacent to everything for the proposed project. The pre-zone, get to the next screen here for you. So the property is in the general plan land use zone, or has a land use of HLD, which is high-low density. And so the property will be pre-zoned as an R1U, which is the single-family residential urban, which is consistent with the general plan. R1U is a mixture of lots. It's R1C, which are larger lots, R1L, which is kind of our medium to larger size lots, 85 to 9,500 square feet. R1 lots are a little bit modest, I guess, size lots, 65 to 7,500 square foot single-family lots. And there is some R3 lots intermixed within the development that will actually accommodate the affordable units. And those are anywhere from 5,500 to about 6,400 square feet in size. As always, the purpose of the development agreement, which is part of this package, is to kind of ensure that the project is in the best interest of the city and will provide for orderly growth and the development area is consistent with the city's planning goals and objectives. Exhibit C, which is kind of all the conditions of the project in the development agreement, was in your packet. I won't go through that in a whole lot of detail.
Hopefully you've had a chance to read through that. It does kind of spell out all the project fees that would be paid upon development of the project, the requirements for roadways, extension of roadways, and everything of those natures in there. Access to the site will be more or less by Bosch Drive. Let me see if I got a, get back to a map here that kind of shows a little better on that. So access to the site will be by Bosch Drive, and there will be a road extended through the project off of, here we go. Pleasant Bay Drive will extend north into the project, and then you'll see Drive A and Drive B, which will be renamed at a future point when they do the final map, will extend through the project, and it'll actually go connect up to a portion of a road that will be put in with the project, which lines up with Shasta Drive. So that will be the future extension, or connect with the future extension of Shasta at some point to North Ripon Road. And then John Roos Avenue will be extended from its current endpoint just north of Helen to the intersection of Shasta. So all interior streets of the project are going to be designed to the city's standards, as with, same with Bosch Drive. John Roos is actually a standard that we have here in town that was kind of an older standard. So here's the current standard we have for streets. It's got detached sidewalk, 10-foot parkways on each side, and 6-foot sidewalk behind the parkways. That'll be Bosch Drive. That'll be the roadways through the project, including Shasta. So this is a look of what the streets are. This is an overhead view of those. Shasta Drive will be put in with a curb just on one side until that orchard north of it develops. So it'll look much like Cornerstone or Cornerstone 2, where we have most of the roadway put in, at least the full roadway width. We just don't have the parkway and the sidewalk on one side of the street until those properties develops. So that'll be the small portion of Shasta Drive. Again, here's an overhead view of those. And then the extension of John Roos will match what's currently there, which is drive over curb and attached sidewalk. The sidewalk that is attached, those are 6-foot sidewalks, so they do match our current standards as far as sidewalk widths. As far as transitioning to new street standards, we typically do that at intersections. It's easier to do that at an intersection than mid-block. We did kind of the same type of development with Silverstone, which is behind Ripon School, where we had attached sidewalk like this. They put in concrete pavers for the roadway, much like this project will have, and they transitioned at an intersection to the newer sidewalk that was detached. Again, there's an overhead view of that look as well. And then for North Ripon Road, on the east side of North Ripon Road, along the frontage there, they will be putting in a 10-foot parkway and a 12-foot combined Class 1 bike path and sidewalk. That'll be the standard for North Ripon Road from Bosch Drive all the way up to River Road at some point in the future when that develops. So they'll be putting in the street improvements along their frontage to match what you're seeing here. Let's see. So in your staff report, we'll jump over to water. We do analyze kind of water usage with all our developments since the drought. Staff did analyze the water consumption of a project being an orchard versus being transitioned into housing. I know this land is vacant right now, but several years back it was an almond orchard. So an almond orchard of that size, based on using 3 feet of irrigation water each year per acre, the difference in that use is actually the orchard would use about 47,940 gallons of water per day, whereas the project of this size with housing would use about 30,950 gallons of water per day with 48 lots. So that's a difference of about 17,000 reduction in use of water compared from an almond orchard to housing as we're putting it. Again, all the project requirements is required to meet the latest green building code for structures and the most current state of California water efficient landscape ordinances that are in place. So what's being built there and the yards being put in, the irrigation systems will have to comply with the latest water efficiency. The tentative subdivision map is to facilitate subdividing the 17 acres into 48 single-family residential lots. It is consistent with the goals and objectives of the city's general plan. Kind of touch bases on the lot sizes for the R1U. We did kind of go through that they are a mixture of lots. So you see the orange lots, which are the R1C. There is actually, get over to this legend here, 13 or 28% of the project of those lots are 12,000 square foot or larger lots. R1 lots, which are 65 to 7,500 square feet, there's only 7 lots within the development that are that size. That's 15%, comprises 15% of the project. And the majority of the project are what we consider R1L. Those are 85 to 9,500 square foot lots. And that's the majority, and you'll see those are all the yellows in there. There is 4 green lots. Those actually vary in size from, well, they got it listed at 55. They do vary in size from like 5,500 up to 6,400. Those are the 4 lots intended for the affordable units. Again, the affordable units are houses that are going to be built as standalone homes. They have to match the surrounding neighborhood as far as quality, interior and exterior. When we say affordable units, these are houses that are sold at FHA limits. So FHA limits for San Joaquin County right now, the top FHA limit to get an FHA loan is about $440,000. So these have to sell for at least no higher than $440,000. So that's the affordable homes that will be put in there, and that's the location of those homes. We did have a meeting with the Planning Commission in February, who reviewed the project and recommended approval to the City Council. That's all listed in your staff report here this evening. So at this time, Mr. Mayor, I will turn it back over to you and be happy to answer questions if you have any.
Any questions from the council? Councilman Zuber, or not Zuber, so Euchre?
Has the fire department looked at the project? Are they okay with this project?
Yes. The fire department's looked at, and they're fine.
Okay. And then another question I had, I noticed that it seems like there's more 2-story houses on this project than norm. Is that,
Actually, there is a requirement in the development agreement that 60% of the project be single-story and 40% could be 2-story. So that's actually a little bit higher single-story requirements than we've had in the past. But
so it's fine then? It meets all of our
It does.
specs?
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilmember Stuccia?
The only thing I'd say is I think you guys did a really good job of putting this together. You're on the planning commission, right? You are too, so you guys did a good job, you too, Ken.
Seeing no other comments, I will open it up to the public for public discussion on this topic. Seeing none, we will close. Oh, wait, what? Yep, so please step up to the podium, state your name and address.
Hi.
Okay.
I'm Melinda Hickman. I live on 212 East Boss Drive. Last time I was here, I made a comment that probably is more towards the code, building code specification requirements for the future builder. And between then and now, it came to my mind that there was one other topic related to that, my previous comments that I should have brought up in that conversation. And the prior time that I was here, I suggested that the city consider including in the code requirements for the home to try and encourage the builder to put handicap with doorways into, as a requirement for bedrooms and baths, maybe primarily just in a downstairs or single-story type of circumstance, but there's, having cared for my mother for so many years before she passed away, I know that there's so many people that, whether it be children, elderly family that now lives with people, and even a military person that could have suffered injuries that may have, wheelchair requirements or other, assistance, and dependent upon the size of the individual, handicap doorways might be very beneficial to where you don't have to go back and reframe parts of the home, which could be quite a different expense than the builder adding it into a few inches wider when they're building the home initially. I just thought that that should be brought up. And also, I know that in the affordables that were built in the neighborhoods around the Bosch area, they were built with 3 bathrooms in the home, like 3-bedroom, 3-bath homes. And every single one of the bathrooms were shower over tub circumstances. And to me, it just should make sense that with as many people with disabilities nowadays, and bringing in elderly parents to care for them in certain circumstances in a home in the future, and even children that could have disabilities, I just think it should be required that when you have, 2 or more bathrooms, that one of them at least is built as a stall shower when you're considering the building codes for the future development. And it would just be nice to see Ripon kind of set a standard, even if it's required by the state. I just think that maybe they could consider setting a standard for those kinds of priorities when the builders are designing the homes for construction. So it just seems very difficult. I went through a hip surgery this last year, and it was not fun and easy to get in and out of a shower that had a shower over a tub. And so I just thought I'd bring that up, because if you're going to build a home that has 3 bathrooms and not one of them is a stall shower, it seems really kind of ridiculous. So I just wanted to have them consider that when they're contracting with the builder. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And then I understand we have a proponent of the project here?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Doug Ledevore with Highland Partners Group. We're the applicant here this evening. I first wanted to just start by thanking city staff. Mr. Zaidavar guided us throughout this process, this planning process, and I think he also gave a very thorough presentation tonight to the City Council, and we certainly appreciate his help and support. As some of you may know or might remember, we've been involved in this property since 2003, 2004. At that time, we were purchasing and developing the Pereira property in Turlock, and as part of our transaction, the Pereiras decided to purchase this piece of property to become part of a rather large proposal that we had initiated here in Ripon. That never materialized for a lot of reasons, but the Pereiras have owned the property ever since, I think 16 years now. Also, Dan Pereira and Donna Miller are both here this evening. They're the 2 property owners. I just wanted to recognize them. We continue to have an interest to propose a small development on this property, but the housing market of 2008 through 2010 hit. It just wasn't feasible to do anything at that time. We came back to the city 3 or 4 years later, and the city at that time had initiated the studies on the North Point specific plan, so our timing wasn't very good then either. But I guess, it's taken a long time to get to this point here today, but the benefit is that we've had a lot of time to work with staff to refine the plan and develop what's in front of you here this evening. As Mr. Zaidavar mentioned, the property is general planned, the high-low density general plan designation, which requires a blending of the different lot sizes. And with a site of this size, depending on how you look at it, 12.5 to 16 acres, it was pretty challenging. But I think our engineers, Northstar, did a very good job, not only complying with the general plan and zoning, but coming up with a plan that I think fits pretty well with the fabric of the existing neighborhood. We have primarily R1L and R1C lots on the south end, facing the larger lots across Bosch. And then on the east side, we have kind of a blending of different lot sizes there, but they're very compatible with what you see on the east side of the street as well. Environmental standpoint, the initial study was very clean. As you know, we're surrounded on 3 sides by city limits, so I think it's a pretty natural progression of growth. And also, as staff mentioned, we have agreed to agricultural mitigation for the loss of the agricultural property, and we have also agreed to provide additional mitigation to the fire district as well, above and beyond the standard requirement. And as far as I know, we're the only development to propose either one of those in the city of Ripon. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. I hope you like the plan, and we're looking for your support tonight.
Does anybody on the council have any questions? Councilmember Stusha.
I do have a question, because what are the dimensions, can you pull up those green ones again? What have we got, 50 feet? So how would, I understand we need to do, and it's the right thing to do and all that, but if it's 50 feet, when you put a regular house on that, is it gonna take up a whole bunch of the lot, or are you gonna be able to lay them
So
out where it's
this-
gonna look pretty open?
What's really interesting is we've got 4 different zoning designations. They all have different setbacks, but that's a requirement of your general plan. On these lots, they're obviously narrower. Boy, I don't have the setback dimensions with me right now, but I believe that's going to be a 34-foot wide house there. So with all these different lot sizes, we're going to have probably a minimum of 6 or 8 different house plans.
And so
maybe
visually,
more.
it'll still probably look pretty good, because you got 2 big ones on each side. If you lay those out correctly, there'll still be a lot of distance between them.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
You have very generous setbacks here in the city of Ripon.
Yeah, okay, well, that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else on the council have any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will now open it back up to the council. Does anybody have any comments? Nothing? Do we have any motions? Well, no, it was for him, previously it was for the councilman to ask him questions. Right. And now it's back open to the council. Oh, there is no action on this one. I was thinking there- So, no, there is, so it doesn't say it down here whether there's action or no action.
There should be action on this to adopt the resolution. There should be staff
Yeah.
recommendation in there,
Yeah, so it doesn't say it on here.
Doesn't say it on there, but.
Yeah.
in the staff report.
Okay.
What was that?
So then, do we have does the council, well, so it's 2 parts. So does the council have any other comments for staff? And then the second part is the motion to
What's
accept
the
the
motion
resolution.
you're looking for, so I can say it correctly?
You have the staff report?
Yeah, to adopt 2A. Adopt,
2A,
Yeah.
okay, so I'll make them,
The resolution that is encompassed in action item 2A.
that's what
Yeah.
I meant to say.
okay. So we have a resolution, or we have a motion to approve 2A, and then we have a second. There we go. There we go. So I had to click back up top. Okay. So now we'll move on to, seeing that motion passes, now we'll move on to 3A. The ordinance pre-zones certain real property as the Pereira residential subdivision to R1. R1U.
Can we just make a motion?
Yeah, so ordinances 3A and 3B actually both go with this project. We would recommend waiving the first reading and introducing the ordinances. One is pre-zoning the property, and 3B is actually approving the development agreement that was with this project.
So we're adopting an ordinance with one motion and approving the development agreement with the second motion?
Waiving the first reading on.
Yes, you're actually pre-zoning the property with one ordinance and adopting the development agreement with the other.
All right, what is it? You waive the first reading and what?
Adopt
Adopt
it.
it?
Introduce the
And
ordinance.
introduce.
Yeah.
I'll, for 2A, I'll make, or 3A, I'll make
3A.
that motion.
Second.
So we've got a motion and we've got a second.
And a separate one for 3B? Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept, waive the first reading and introduce the ordinance 3B.
Okay, we've got a motion and we've got a second. All right, now we move on to discussion items. 4A, pavement management report.
Hello, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Pelosi.
I will be presenting on the pavement management report, which I'll bring back next month for you to review the full report. There it is, thank you. In short, it's recommended that the money that we receive is largely used for preventative maintenance projects, and this is to extend the life of the road and avoid structural failure of streets so that we don't have to go back and renovate the whole street. This plan is a tool to communicate with the city council and the public and track progress of previous streets, and this report is brought back to council every 3 years. You could ask me questions at any time. When we evaluate streets, we use it on a score of 0 to 100, and we rate the streets from very poor to excellent. Your concrete paver streets are typically rated as excellent quality, and yep. So this map shows the blue, which are excellent, and the green, which are good. And as the streets deteriorate, they go to fair and poor, which are the yellow and orange, and the red is very poor, and they need repairs immediately. So last time we brought this report to council, it was in 2016, and the average PCI rating for the streets combined was 68.5, and this year it's still at 68.5, so there hasn't been much change, but it's still below the 70, which is our goal for the PCI rating. Here we have a table just showing the funding sources, a previous balance of approximately 1.8, and then our funding each year. So our operating revenue comes from highway user tax, local transportation fund, Measure K, and SB1 tax. The local transportation fund is being reduced by 25% starting in next year, and that will go to fund transportation projects or rail projects or anything like that. Operating expenses include street and road maintenance, which is done by Public Works, landscaping maintenance, administration, and engineering. So at the end of the 5 years, we're going to have approximately $5.5 million to use for these streets and roads funds. So there are different types of repair. The one that we have usually Public Works or hire someone to do quickly is just the crack filling repair, pothole repair. The actual surface treatments are a slurry seal, a cape seal, which is actually a combination of a chip seal and a slurry seal together. And then the 3-layer, which is a micro slurry at the bottom, followed by the cape seal. Our most recent project, the Mulholland, California, utilized this 3-layer for the majority of the project. Then we have rehabilitation methods, which are typically an overlay or a full restoration. And they're generally much more expensive. So in this table, you see the projects from 2010 till today, and these are in 2020 dollars. The city has completed over 1.8 million square feet of surface treatment projects for a total of $1.9 million. And during the same period, the city completed 540,000 square feet of rehabilitation projects for a total of $2.1 million. So you can see there is a quite significant difference Typically, the overlay will cost 3 to 6 times more than a slurry or cape seal, and the reconstruction cost will be 6 to 10 times more. So you see, it's right around $1 per square foot for surface treatments, and $3 to $6 or $7 for rehabilitation per square foot.
I have a question.
Yep.
What street did we overlay last year? Because I don't remember that.
This past year?
Yeah, it says in 2019, there was 144,000.
Oh, so that was a section of River Road. When we did the River Road widening, the south side of the street, from Fulton to the school, to the east side of the school, we overlaid that section.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So roadway life typically is 25 to 40 years. During the first years, the rate of deterioration is at a slower rate until it reaches about a PCI of 60, which is then considered the tipping point for the road. At this point, the road has lived 75% of its serviceable life and will have experienced a 40% drop in quality. After this point, deterioration of the road happens at a much quicker rate, and after several more years, the pavement drops another 40% of quality and about 12% of its life. In order to prevent pavement from reaching this tipping point, it's necessary to implement preventative maintenance projects before the PCI reaches this point. So just to give you an example of one of the first streets we did here in Ripon, this is Fifth and Fir is the project, and this is Fifth Street. And you can see there's just alligator cracking. This is in 2015, the asphalt rubber cape seal project, and it's just really deteriorated. This is right after the project was completed, and you'll have some reflected cracking come through, and that's pretty typical. We don't expect a brand new road, we just expect the PCI of the road to be higher than 70. And then this is today, and as you see, 5 years later, it's still in pretty decent shape. And this is using the 3-layer system, so less than $2 a square foot. Here are some of the project areas that we're recommending to do over the next 5 years. The first one we would recommend is the remainder of River Road, and also the Ripon area, as well as Stockton Avenue, which is going out to bid shortly this summer. Here's just a summary of those project areas, the type of treatment they need, construction costs, and the program year for them. The total of the projects, not including Stockton Avenue, is $4.15 million. So in summary, the majority of the streets and roads budget is being applied to preventive maintenance, and this is to get that PCI of 70 or better. Are there any questions?
Councilmember Stuccia?
I do have a question. So, speaking of River Road, isn't River Road an expressway, a county road?
Well, there's a section of River Road that is within the City of Ripon project, or city limits.
So we're responsible for a thoroughfare like that. So even though people from everywhere beat up our road, we have to maintain it, and we get no county or state funding for
Well,
that?
we do search grants, and there's this last slide actually shows the different grants that we do try to pursue to get funding to repair roads like
But
that.
I mean, it's not automatic. The fact that we annexed all that, we actually take care of what I would consider still a county
Yes.
road.
Yes.
Yeah, that road's actually on the federal aid system to where we can apply for federal grants and state funds for that, along with like Stockton Avenue. There's certain roads within town. that-
How successful are those efforts, especially since that's a major thoroughfare?
Well, we got a lot of money for Stockton Avenue,
I'm talking about River.
River Road.
Yeah, River Road, we were able to apply the RSTIP, STIP funds, or the RSTP funds.
So you're doing what you can, but we're still responsible for it. So as we can't keep annexing stuff over county roads, we're responsible for, so that means we could shut the road off for through traffic. Well, if it's our city, we could shut it down, right?
Well,
would
I
not
think it's
recommend.
important to point out, when we annexed that road, it was a 2-lane road.
It was.
It's a 6-lane road now because we decided to make
It
that,
was.
not the county. So, I mean, it's partly our responsibility that it's as big as it is right now.
So they should pay for 2 lanes.
We just-
Problem is, the county has
It's
a
not their
worse
road.
number than we do, and they're not gonna
No,
turn
I
any of
know.
their money loose.
I had to ask.
All right.
Could you send this? Email it or something, because it went kind of, there's some things I want to look at in preparation for next month.
Okay.
But I'm not sure what the question is until I go over it in
Okay.
my own head.
Good idea. Yeah.
Discussion option.
Thank
Excellent.
you.
Thank you very much. Moving on. Oh, we do have one question. Yeah, oh, ma'am?
We gotta get you on tape.
Yeah.
It's the maps for all the new development. We're showing the future intersection of the new development where it's Bosch and Pleasant Bay crossing that. On the on the southeast corner of that intersection, on the Pleasant Bay Street, the former owner that owned the duo-home corner unit that faced onto Pleasant Bay there, had actually driven over their Christmas tree and set their car on fire. And it damaged the asphalt there. And I was just curious, when things like that happen, I would imagine there was a police report, filed in regards to that. Does it automatically go to the city to have the road repair that would have been, it did damage the road surface out in front of that home. Does that go to the city to where the insurance company for that homeowner would have then reimbursed the city? Just a question I thought I'd throw out, whether or not you guys ever got any funds for future road repair at that address. I think it's 1101 Pleasant Bay, just because of the fact that, it's owned by an investor now, but it was owned by a private homeowner who actually set their van on fire, and I was just curious about whether or not the city gets reimbursed in a situation like that for future road repairs.
My knowledge
Yeah.
for that particular case, I don't think we've received anything, but the city of Ripon is capable of billing for property damage.
So is there anything in communication that maybe might go back and forth between the police department and to report that to the city? So if the city's unaware, that things like that have happened in a particular neighborhood, so that the city's made aware so they can put in a claim?
I'm sure that Ms. Quosi, I don't know, and I don't want to speak for you, but do you need time to look up that information, or?
Yeah, I don't know.
I
the
don't know.
Yeah,
particular
as to
details.
anything
I don't know that it
specific
needs
like
to be
that.
repaired
Yeah.
immediately now, but I just thought that for future, if there's
Yeah.
communication to the police department so that they know to report things like that to the city, so the city can collect reimbursement before the home ends up sold to a new owner. And then how do you go
Yeah.
back against the former owner in a situation like that if it occurs in, at other
Mm-hmm.
residences for actual street damage that's the fault of the homeowner? So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Honorable City Council, this is a revisit of an item that was brought up in the December council meeting regarding the red light traffic camera that was recommended at the time to be installed at West Main Street and Jacktown Road. There's a couple things that have occurred since that recommendation, and so tonight it's on the agenda for a discussion and for request for direction from the council. Since the time of the last meeting, there's been some modifications in traffic patterns that we're seeing less traffic at that intersection on a routine basis. We are having an officer still monitor the intersection between the hours of 4 and 6 p.m. if the traffic on southbound Highway 99 proceeds below 25 miles per hour. That's usually the trigger point where we see influx of traffic at that intersection. But since Thanksgiving, we have seen a modification of fewer and fewer motor vehicles coming through that intersection. And with that, fewer and fewer red light violations. Although red light violations are occurring, they're not occurring at the same numerous violations as they were before. So with that in mind, we did reach out to Redflex and at the direction of council from the last meeting. And also, they had changed some of the requirements that we had discussed before. Initially, they had agreed to installing one camera for a minimum of a 3-year contract. During our communications, they upped that to a minimum of 3 cameras for a 3 to 5 year contract, which would in effect triple the cost per year for red light cameras within our community. We found that to be unacceptable at the time. So based on the information that was occurring with the reduction in traffic violations and the increased or change in modification from Redflex, the police department is no longer recommending a red light traffic camera to go in at that intersection. And so that's the information we have tonight. And again, we're looking for direction from the council of how they want us to proceed.
Okay. Open it up to the council.
I agree, we should just cut it off. Why we wanna spend that kind of money is crazy,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I think we're pretty much in consensus with that. So, all
Thank you. That's all I
Yep.
need. Thank you.
right. We will now move on to department reports. Chief, right back at you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Honorable City Council, members of the general public, I just have 2 quick items tonight. First of all, I want to remind the council that tomorrow at 1 p.m., we will be swearing in our 22nd officer. Taylor Hosmer will be coming into our department family at 1 o'clock in the Emergency Operations Center / training room. Everybody's welcome to attend. He is a lateral officer coming to us from the Sheriff's Department. So we'll be swearing him in tomorrow. Secondly, I just wanted to reiterate the comments made by Councilman Restuccia regarding Officer Perry and Kilo. For those of the members of the public that don't know, Kilo's been working as a canine narcotics detection dog for our agency for just over 7 years. She was initially purchased through donations made by several members and businesses of our community. And Officer Perry took on the responsibility, has taken great care of her, not only on duty but off duty. They've spent over 60,000 hours together over the past 7 years. And with the approval tonight, Officer Perry will be adopting her so until she for the remainder of her life. So I thank you for that, and I thank Officer Perry and Kilo for their service.
Excellent. Mr. Zeidevart.
I have nothing to report.
Mr. Peace.
Yes, real quick, Mr. Mayor, Honorable City Council. I just wanted to report on our water reduction amount. So from February, we're down 6%, which is a pretty low amount. We had a pretty warm February compared to our 2013 numbers. The other thing I did want to mention is March 1st, we started our 3-day watering schedule per residence. It's still 10 to 6. No Mondays. The even addresses are Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Odd addresses are Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. So just a reminder to set your timers. We've got our water conservation coordinator out patrolling. And then also, On April 1st, we will be starting our large item pickup program, which was pretty successful over the last couple of years. Each resident will be able to have one pickup per year, up to 4 large items per customer. And so we'll be sending a nixle out to all the residents and letting them know when they can begin scheduling. So that was it.
Thank you. Ms. Quillisi,
Nothing further to report.
Mr. Restusha, or not Restusha, Terpstra? Mr. Warner. Yeah, it all blends together. I play attorney once in a while. Just on TV, yeah. Mr. Warner. Nothing to report. Councilmember Restusha.
The only thing I want to bring up is April 4th is our Ripon First Responder Appreciation Day. We line up at the City Police Department. Last year, we had almost 500 people, I guess. First 200 people get a shirt, 8:30, then at 9 o'clock, we walk to the fire department. We have a presentation there. So come out, just to come out and thank your first responders for what they do, our hometown heroes, and they'd like to see you all. So, that's it.
Thank you. Councilman Euchre.
Nothing.
Councilman Zuber.
I have a request, I don't know who to make it to, but I would like some sort of a summary report on prosecutions we've made for illegal dumping in maybe the last 6 months, because things are better at the recycling center, but they're not perfect. We still get stuff. And I know we're doing it because I get the invoices and we're paying money to send somebody to court for something, and my reason for asking is not to question that part. I'd just like to have an idea of how much, how many we're doing and that sort of thing.
Yeah, we're actually in the process of putting together a spreadsheet on that now. We talked about that this afternoon, so should have it for you
Great.
very shortly.
All right, thank you.
Vice Mayor DeGraff.
What?
He does. And you actually have people to talk to.
Oh, yeah, well, I don't have a whole lot to say other than, as always, thank you, for just being here. Appreciate it. That's, it's nice to see faces, so, instead of empty chairs, that's all.
And I have nothing to say. So with that, we will go ahead and end